Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Lamine Mbo. I'm the Senior Vice President, Global Head of the Cancer Immunology and Immunomodulation at Boehringer Ingelheim. It's a great honor for me to serve as the chair of today's webinar to hear from the 2023 Prix Galien USA Award winners. So to kick off the new year, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share some highlights as well as recognize the incredible achievements of the 2023 Prix Galien USA winners. So each year, the Galien Foundation convenes its global community to realize its mission to foster, recognize, and reward excellence in scientific innovation to improve the state of human health. Now, it does this through the recognition by an independent committee, 12 scientists, researchers, and academic leaders, including 3 Nobel laureates of outstanding private sector achievement in the discovery and development of new treatments for deadly diseases. Sponsoring the biopharmaceutical vaccines, medtech, digital app awards programs in the US, and 14 other countries, as well as Africa and India, and now globally through the Prix Galien International Awards. The Galien Foundation just hosted the first Prix Galien India in New Delhi. With a rich history of scientific contributions to medicine and public health, India is a key player in the production of medicines, both in sheer volume and in value worldwide, and is the global leader in the production of generic drugs and vaccines, ensuring accessibility to treatment to the underprivileged. Hosting public forums to advocate for best practices supportive of greater private sector biopharma innovation. The Galien USA Forum, held annually in New York, is just one example. There, among other topics, we hear from the world's leading healthcare organizations to discuss the past, present, and future of human health. Finally, promoting partnerships between the private sector in biopharma and key public stakeholders like government, academia, NGOs, patient groups, and the media. In this regard, the Foundation's Pro Bono Humanum Award, launched in 2007 by Galien co-founder, author, and Nobel Prize winner laureate Dr. Elie Wiesel, has made it a rising influential force behind the global movement for health equity, where medicine's innovation is advanced as a human right, health for all. Now, we had a very productive week in October 2023 with a series of 15 webinars over 3 days covering each of the 177 products from 164 companies in 15 therapeutic areas nominated by the awards committee for recognition as winner of a Prix Galien award in 7 categories: best product, best biotechnological product, best pharmaceutical product, best medical technology, best digital health solution, best product for rare orphan diseases, incubators, accelerators and equity, and best startup. Now, let's hear from the representative of the 2023 Company Award recipient in Best Startup. I will start with Odette Kraft, and I will ask each of the winner to please introduce themselves and then answer 3 questions. The first question is, what it took to get your winning product over the finish line to commercial success? The second question would be the clinical benefit of the product to patients, as well as the social economic gains for society. And last, predictions, trends for 2024 of what's to come in their specific field. So I would like to start with Odette Kraft, who's the co-founder and CEO of Grey Matters.
Thank you, Lamine. So very good to be here, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. As you said, Odette Kraft, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Grey Matters Health. Electrical engineer and MBA by training many years ago. Previously worked for GE Healthcare, nuclear medicine and PET-CT division, then startups, then Roche diabetes care through an acquisition, followed by an executive role with Kornit Digital Health doing printing on textile. Now it's publicly traded on NASDAQ, and for the past 7 years the CEO and again, one of the co-founders of Grey Matters Health. Again, very happy to be here. So shall I just answer the
Yes,
first
please.
one? Okay.
What it took to
So
get your winning product over the finish line to commercial success.
okay, thank you. So we at Grey Matters, we have just launched our first product, Prism for PTSD. It's indicated to treat post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. And I'm very happy, very pleased to see that we're seeing very good traction and very high interest from the market, from clinics. It demonstrates, I think, that we're touching on a real gap and a real need. Now, I think what has gotten us to this point in time, only 3 years after our seed round, following FDA clearance and a clinical study in 5 locations globally, all during COVID, are 3 points, I would say. One is innovation or relevant innovation, which I'll explain, focus, and team. By relevant innovation, I mean innovation that is not only representing groundbreaking way of doing things, sort of out of the box, but also doing it in a way that meets our customer needs, meaning they can use it not just to treat, but also to thrive, to develop their practice and help more people and also build their business. It captures the imagination, and also at the same time, it shows that the use of the technology is durable, it's plausible, and is practical. By focus, I mean the fact that we continuously decide what we do, and sometimes more importantly, what we do not do, or at least not for now. So we, leverage our limited resources we just talked about corporates versus startups before we just went into this. So we focus our very limited resources on what is a must do and not what is a possibility. And sometimes it's a challenge. I'm sure it's true for the other companies here, because you build the technology, you build the platform, but ultimately it's a product. You need to choose what is first in the market. So that's focus. And finally, the team. I mean, the core team, my co-founders, the first team of the companies, the employees, the shareholders, the key opinion leaders with whom we meet and talk continuously. I think the people you work with, that's the DNA, pun intended, but by definition. So I think that these are the three elements that gotten us to this point. As for the second question about the clinical benefits, economic and society. So as we're all aware, mental health is huge and it's growing fast. It's one of the, if not the most underserved market today. Many chronic conditions, oncology, cardiology, diabetes, typically have on their side some kind of stress, which leads to other mental or behavioral conditions. And we are actively seeking, by the way, to partner with anybody who cares for this area, because it does take a village in this case. Now, standard of care today, and that's important to understand before I talk about our benefits, is made of psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy, and for some indications, TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. Now, the gap in the market and the need has to do with limited efficacy, painful and serious side effects, especially when we talk about medications, and accessibility issues. There is a huge shortage of mental health care professionals globally. And last and not least, huge stigma associated with psychotherapy and taking those medications. Now, what we have done with Prism for PTSD and later on other indications that are not FDA cleared yet, is to offer a non-invasive, high efficacy and very low side effect therapy, which is very accessible. It's accessible because it's essentially a neurofeedback form that operates on a biomarker of the brain. And so the staff at the clinic, the cost of the equipment is very low, such that one day I hope that we have projects to deploy Prism in emerging markets, not just in OECD countries. And so it's very simple to operate, and so it makes it much more accessible. And finally, the results that we've seen in, for example, the last FDA study, we see nearly 70% response rate, more than 30% remission, and that is 3 months after the end of treatment with no further intervention, and with some subpopulations even higher. So All of this with headaches and nausea and fatigue being the main side effects, I think it does address those key gaps in the market, and I think that puts us in Prism in a good position to alleviate both economical, health, and social aspects. Maybe one last point. As I mentioned, we developed a biomarker of the brain, specific brain activities. Prism for PTSD operates on the amygdala-based EFP, the amygdala, the center of fight flight. We do it by combining EEG and fMRI during the development process. Now, this development process, is scalable. So not only can we use that same biomarker theoretically in the future to treat other indications such as anxiety, depression, and more, we have such biomarkers for additional areas of the brain, so we can scale it to also the reward system, the cognitive system, and thereby treat more and more disorders, offering scalability to clinics. Predictions. Well, that's always the toughest part, I think. So, we have to look at the market, the economics, reimbursement, and yes, technology as well. So I try to think of a few predictions from different directions. Mental health, since COVID became sort of in vogue, it's okay to talk about it, and I think that's a good thing. Because once you talk about those aspects of life, well, we can actually do something about it. So I think that's going to continue. I think we gradually start seeing people getting back to clinics. Telemedicine will continue and play a big role as it started with COVID. And yet we're all starting to realize how the human interaction is really important. We are social beings. And so I think we'll start to see a gradual shift back to clinics. Second, we are already seeing some consolidations in the market, meaning we see how small clinics, small networks start to merge, start to consolidate into becoming larger providers. And this is driven by cost savings as well as striving to scale and efficiency to serve more and more people. And finally, we are seeing how psychedelics will start to enter the market. Now, we are not psychedelics. We are digital therapeutics in a way, but really a medical device. And I think this greater offering of more and more modalities will actually fuse the innovation in general in mental health, which, as I said at the beginning, has been underserved for quite some time. And I think this comes from a true thirst and interest of clinicians and other stakeholders to find real solutions for real problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Odette. Thank you for that. And now I'd like to turn to Jeff Martin, who's the SVP Global Marketing, Volta Medical. Jeff, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Lamine. And first of all, I just want to say to Odette, thank you. As a military veteran, PTSD is an important topic for me and my community. So very much appreciate the things you're doing to progress the science there. It's very, very necessary. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Martin, the SVP of Volta Medical. I've essentially, after my military career, I basically leapt into the medical device space. I'm an engineer by education, and essentially have had several roles across several different medical categories, including cataract surgery and structural heart, but mostly in the field of electrophysiology, which is the field of treatment of cardiac arrhythmias. And specifically at Volta Medical, we're focused on the treatment of atrial fibrillation. So Volta is a AI, machine learning AI technology, decision support system that basically aids electrophysiologists during catheter ablations for the treatment of AFib, and particularly more progressed form of AFib, which many of you will know is persistent AFib, and which is a much more complex disease than a more recent paroxysmal. And ultimately, this is actually one of the key elements of our success, and frankly, continues to be an area that we have to really focus on, which is the education on AI, and specifically the dealing with the concerns that a lot of frankly, the media today with the focus on AI confuses people, including physicians and other hospital stakeholders, on what AI is, what it can be, and the dangers of it. And it's not to say not a healthy conversation, but it also leads to a lot of conversations around a black box kind of concept. And as you would all expect, physicians in particular are always worried about anything they consider a black box. So to be fair, one of our key areas is really education and educating how we approach AI as a interprocedural AI, interventional AI, as we like to call it, which is very different than what you're hearing out about ChatGPT, large languages, generative AI. These are all concepts that are out there. And so a big part of what we do and need to do continuously is educate the physicians, educate the hospital stakeholders. So that's a key aspect on that first question of what are we doing to get our product across the finish line, is really addressing that concern. Because if you start diving into hospitals, you get the questions from legal, you get the questions from IT, and even at the hospital system level, they want to know that how to address bias data. All these are very active conversations that we continuously have to have. In addition to the AI aspect, we are founded by our CEOs. It was the original data scientist that created the original algorithm, and we were founded by the three physicians who essentially discovered the approach that our system supports. And ultimately, that marriage was important for us as a company because it infused in us the importance of clinical evidence. So as Oded mentioned, we've done a lot of clinical evidence, and particularly we established a RCT study to compare ourselves against the standard of care for catheter ablation for persistent AFib, to really show the benefits of this technology in the highest level form of clinical evidence. And I think that influence of a physician leadership, data scientist oriented organization has been critical for us to establish credibility, not only with our physician partners, but also the hospital stakeholders that want to see that level of evidence. And then last but not least, we continue to work through the various commercial pathways that are required to get in. But ultimately, the organization that Theo, our CEO, and our physicians have set has really been the main goal to help this community in electrophysiology. And the reason why that's important is we think about how does this benefit patients and the social elements. Is AFib is one of the highest levels of prevalence of these, and particularly for arrhythmias. There's about 50 million people around the world that have AFib, and just within the U.S. alone, up to 6 million people have it, and is expected to reach more than double that over the course of the next several years. So AFib is a frankly, in many ways, a pandemic that's going to happen based on its so it is definitely something that our healthcare systems have to address. Specifically within AFib and persistent AFib is the idea that of the catheter ablations to treat atrial fibrillation, 70% of those people, 70% of people who have suffered from AFib have persistent AFib, the more progressed version. But only 50%, less than 50%, are represented in those catheter ablations. So the physicians in the hospitals have really been focusing mostly on the paroxysmal patients, and I think partly because the solutions to treat these more complex versions of AFib have not been available. And that is a big problem, considering the patients represent much higher percentage of the population that suffers from that. So finding solutions to help that group of people is critical. And I think at the end of the day, one of the things that has also been seen is the overall success rate of AFib and catheter ablation has not been really high. It's been in the 60% range, 70% range, and particularly in persistent AFib, it can get down closer to 50% clinical trials. And this is a problem because we end up having weighing down the systems with redo patients who need multiple catheter ablations. So this is another area that really weighs down the healthcare system, and people who are not successful, one and even two, have to go for multiple procedures. In fact, we're even seeing some countries that are not allowing a third ablation be done by the same physician that started the ablation to address that. So I think this is something that is becoming bigger issue. Last but not least, on predictions for in our area of electrophysiology, first of all, AI is going to continue, like I think in every area of medicine, become bigger focus. At the end of the day, the electrical physiology lab, I liken it to a cockpit of an aircraft. You know, when you're in a fighter aircraft, you got a lot of gadgets and things you have to do live, real time, and make decisions in real time. And it's the same for an electrophysiologist. And they have a lot of data coming at them. So having the ability to have an intraprocedural solution is going to help simplify and give them that I think will make our hope and our belief their procedures much more successful. However, one of the biggest things that are always a bit of a challenge in electrophysiology is there's a very big emphasis also on the ablation technology itself, the modality of how they're providing the patient. So traditionally, radiofrequency energy and cryoablation has been the predominant methods. But when it comes to the newest method, which is pulse field ablation, which is an electroporation type device, that's become a very big innovation. And because of that, you know, a lot of the resources of the hospitals and the healthcare systems have really been starting to really go into that area. But at the end, assessment and really understanding where a physician needs to ablate has to be considered. So this will be a bit of an issue that we will need to deal with, being more on the assessment side, which says, hey, in the hospital's limited resources, there should be a place, because this, you know, the ablation itself is not going to solve the problem necessarily. It's going to also be the correct placement of where the ablation happens. So these are the trends that we're seeing, that we're dealing with from our perspective. You know, the nice thing is electrophysiology is seen as one of the more profitable areas in medicine. So there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of investment in this area. And that's great. That's great for the patients. That's great for us. It's great for all involved, but it's also can be a little bit dangerous in the capacity that it not always favors the right, you know, sort of places to invest and concentrate in. So these are things that we see and predict and obviously are trying to shape where we believe the best output will be for patients and for physicians who treat them. So that's my thoughts on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Jeff, for painting that very important picture around how you come up with solutions for the patients who will come to it in the end about themes. Very much appreciated. Same for that as well. Last but not least, I want to turn to Jake Rubens, who's the co-founder of Tessera Therapeutics. And for Jake, I have a specific list of questions here I would like to read for the audience. So please tell us about the technology that you're developing, Jake. And then for 2023, we saw the benchmark approvals of the first CRISPR-based therapies in the US, UK, and the EU. What do you see as the next big leap in genetic medicine? And the last question is, what new technologies have caught your eye recently, and which ones do you think have the biggest potential to transform drug discovery and development?
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here today. My name is Jake Rubens. I'm a co-founder, the founding chief scientific officer, and currently the chief innovation officer at Tessera Therapeutics. I'm also a partner at Flagship Pioneering, where my job is to start, run, and grow biotech companies. We were so excited at Tessera when we won this award. We actually had a plastic copy of the Galien medal made for everyone at the company. We hope to be back here someday, winning maybe a best drug award, at which case we'll maybe upgrade that from plastic to the real deal. So at Tessera, we're pioneering a new approach to genome engineering that we call gene writing. And Tessera was founded upon the belief that the ability to write DNA, to write in the code of life, is going to be a defining technology of this century. As I mentioned, my job is to build companies at Flagship where we have an initial insight into biology. And if we're right, that insight allows us to see the world differently and open up entirely new ways to treat disease. Each of the 5 companies I've started at Flagship really can be traced back to insights about DNA. And the reason is DNA is the code of life. It is the most powerful molecule in the universe. So we believe that learning from DNA and modifying it has the potential to generate very powerful insights and powerful drugs. Today, we have more than 1 million copies of the human genome. And with this information, we can know with increasing confidence how we can design drugs that can directly modify those sites in the genome to make those powerful treatments for patients. And the fundamental question that we asked ourselves when we started Tessera was CRISPR, which recently won a Nobel Prize, evolved to cut DNA. But making cuts in DNA only goes so far in treating disease. So we wondered, what if nature evolved better tools for genome engineering? We've built a platform that we call gene writing that is designed to write therapeutic messages into the genome in our DNA by efficiently changing single or multiple DNA bases, by correcting deletions or insertions in the genome, and even by writing entire exons or new genes into the genome. We're combining this with our proprietary delivery technology based upon lipid nanoparticles to enable in vivo all RNA-based genetic medicines. We aim to become a leader in this emerging field of genetic medicine, which we believe in the future will be a pillar of medicine itself. So your second question was about recent approvals in the genetic medicine field. And one of the big ones recently was the approval of the first CRISPR-based drug for sickle cell disease. We're really excited by this. We're very excited for the patients, and we're really excited for the field of genetic medicine. These approvals are paving the way for the era of genome engineering. And now the question for us as a field is not whether genome modification can work, whether it can make drugs, but rather, how do we create the best drugs? How do we create drugs that can reach as many patients as possible? And it's our belief that enabling in vivo delivery of these medicines to patients is what's going to be necessary to maximize patient access, to help positively impact as many patients as possible. And to be more specific about that, the currently approved sickle cell drugs, both a gene therapy and a genome engineering therapy, require patients to undergo myeloablative conditioning, basically a chemotherapy that wipes out their bone marrow while their cells are engineered and then returned back to their body over what it ends up being close to a month-long process. This does limit patient access. And to treat a disease that's as prevalent as sickle cell disease, not only in developed countries, but in the entire world, we believe we're going to need to move towards in vivo medicines that don't require any of this type of chemotherapeutic conditioning. As to your question about recent technology developments that have caught our eye, there's 2 that are on our minds. So the first is the really incredible rapid development of RNA-based medicines that has built incredible infrastructure for mRNA manufacturing, for mRNA delivery, delivery into the body and delivery to the patients itself, which really comes down to, of course, our COVID-19 pandemic vaccines from Moderna, a company that was started by Flagship Pioneering, as well as BioNTech and Pfizer. There has been such incredible investment into the ability to make and scale mRNA now that we realized at Tessera the benefit that would accrue to us by focusing our own technology development, our gene writing technology, on medicines that only require RNA. And so our focus on these all RNA-based genome engineering technologies is really powered by this great insight into the increasing prevalence of mRNA as a therapeutic. The second of the big technological advances that's on our mind is, of course, the same thing Jeff referenced. It's artificial intelligence. We're probably close to the beginning of the significant health impacts that are going to come from artificial intelligence. Many people are familiar with the incredible breakthroughs in deep learning and large language models that have enabled advances like ChatGPT. These tools have really not yet been turned upon what we think is maybe one of the richest sources of data for training, and that's DNA. Much like the zeros and ones, the bits that code in our computer, DNA is also a digital code. It's made up of A, T, G's, and C's, a sequence of 3 billion of which give rise to the rich complexity that is us. And as I mentioned today, we have roughly 1 million copies of that code now. Beyond that, we have many copies of animal genomes, of bacterial, archaeal, and viral genomes. And it's estimated that at some point in 2025, we'll have 40 exabytes of genome data. Each exabyte is 1 billion gigabytes. And to help put that in perspective, it's estimated that all of the words ever spoken by humanity is just about 5 exabytes of data. So we'll have 8 times more human genome data next year. And of course, the incredible power of these generative models like ChatGPT, these large language models, have only been trained on a fraction of that 5 exabytes of data ever spoken by humans. So imagine what we will learn when we begin to turn these advanced computational tools upon DNA. What will it mean for biology, for the field of biology, for us to be able to generate the code of life? At Tessera, we've established robust in-house machine learning and AI capabilities that we believe provide and position us for a substantial advantage as we continue to engineer gene writing technologies and delivery platforms. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jake, and for that. Quite impressive, actually, hearing the amount of data that could be generated. So I would like to perhaps just kind of come up with the common themes, hearing all of these winners for their outstanding, inspiring innovation. So one of the things that I heard was it started really by understanding what the patients really need and providing solutions to those patients, right? So I heard the word relevant innovation, kind of really understand how do we meet the needs of the patients, and then the focus and the team setup was also a theme I can hear from all 3 of you. The other piece that caught my eye was also the resilience, because you're entering an area as a startup, a lot of barriers that could actually be that could interfere with your goal to meet or deliver solutions to patients. But the resilience that you've shown to break through novel areas of science in order to meet those patients' needs is actually quite commendable. In terms of futuristic, not surprisingly, we all heard about the AI, right? And to introduce as being something that is going to be inevitable, right? Whether it's mental health, digital therapeutics, or addressing AFib, or addressing other areas of how we rewrite therapeutic messages into the genome. That's going to be a powerful enabling tool. But one thing that also was important is how we need to educate. And that was also important for me to hear that from Jeff, how we need to educate also our key stakeholders about what that means and what kind of solutions can be applied or can be delivered through AI. So those were really very common, interesting common themes that I gather from you. So let me check if there are any questions from the audience. I don't see really anything, but of course this is recorded and for the others to go and look at it. I wanted to thank all of you and congratulations to all the winners on your incredible innovations. Very inspiring. And thank you to all of our guests as well and audience members today. 2023 continue to bring new challenges to our community as all the major actors in healthcare forge ahead with life-saving vaccines and therapeutics. Now, as we begin 2024, we greatly anticipate seeing the novel and outstanding contributions that will be made in these industries. So today's webcast will be available shortly for on-demand viewing on the Galien Foundation YouTube page. Thank you again, and congratulations to all our winners and to the Galien Foundation for hosting this webcast.
Thank you all.
Thank you.